Lucy Thomas was a soft-spoken teenager from Wigan, England, whose life changed the moment she stepped onto the stage of The Voice Kids UK in 2018. At just 13 years old, she carried none of the confidence or polish often associated with young performers on national television. Instead, there was a quiet nervousness, a sense of someone who loved singing, but had never imagined it would take her beyond her small-town life. Yet what made Lucy different was not how loudly she sang, but how deeply she felt every note she delivered. Before the world even understood her name, there was already something unmistakable about her presence, a stillness that drew attention rather than demanded it. Her journey began in a modest family environment where music was not a business or a performance strategy, but a form of comfort. Singing was something she shared with her sister and practiced in the safety of home rather than under stage lights. No one around her expected that a single television appearance would transform her into a national talking point, but that is exactly what happened. The moment she walked into the audition room, there was an unspoken sense that something unusual might unfold. Still, nothing could have prepared anyone for how quickly that expectation would become reality once she began to sing. The performance that stopped time. When Lucy Thomas began singing Moon River, the atmosphere in the studio shifted almost instantly. The song, already known for its gentle melancholy, took on an entirely new emotional depth through her interpretation. Her voice was not loud or forceful. Instead, it was controlled, pure, and hauntingly expressive in a way that seemed far beyond her age. Within seconds, the judges turned their chairs, visibly surprised not just by her vocal ability but by the emotional maturity embedded in every phrase she delivered. It was one of those rare television moments where performance and emotion merge so seamlessly that the audience forgets they are watching a competition. What made the moment unforgettable was not technical perfection alone, but the feeling that Lucy was not performing at all. She was telling a story she deeply understood. Even the judges, who did not turn their chairs, acknowledged her talent, describing her voice as flawless and unusually refined for someone so young. The audience responded with silence followed by awe, as if collectively unsure whether to react immediately or simply absorb what they had just witnessed. Within hours of airing, clips of her performance spread rapidly online, drawing millions of views and emotional reactions from viewers across the country. For many, it felt less like a televised audition and more like the discovery of a once-in-a-generation voice, a journey through competition and pressure. After her audition, Lucy joined the team of Danny Jones, who quickly recognized not only her vocal ability but her emotional sensitivity as an artist. Throughout the competition, she approached every rehearsal with a seriousness that often surprised the production team. While other contestants sometimes treated the experience as a fast-paced introduction to fame, Lucy treated it as a learning environment. She took notes, practiced diligently, and focused on understanding the deeper mechanics of vocal control and expression. Her humility became one of her defining traits during the show. As the competition progressed into battle rounds and live performances, Lucy demonstrated versatility that extended beyond her initial audition style. She tackled more challenging arrangements, including emotionally charged pieces that required both vocal strength and restraint. Each performance reinforced the idea that her talent was not limited to one genre or emotional tone. However, as she advanced further, the pressure of public expectation began to grow. Viewers who had been captivated by her audition now expected perfection every time she stepped on stage. Despite this, Lucy maintained her calm demeanor, even as the stakes increased. Her elimination during the semi-finals came as a shock to many fans who had expected her to reach the final stage. The reaction was not anger, but disappointment, as audiences had grown emotionally invested in her journey. For Lucy, however, the experience marked a turning point rather than an ending. It was the moment she realized that her identity as a singer would extend far beyond a single television competition, returning home to an unexpected spotlight. When Lucy returned to Wigan after the show, she did not return to anonymity. Instead, she stepped into a quieter but more persistent form of recognition. The sudden attention from the public was overwhelming for someone still balancing school life and adolescence. Messages from strangers filled her social media accounts, praising her voice and predicting a major career ahead. While much of the feedback was positive, it also introduced an unfamiliar kind of pressure. People were not just admiring her performance, they were building expectations around her future. At school, her life changed in subtle but noticeable ways. Teachers congratulated her, classmates discussed her appearances, and local media began reaching out to her family. Despite this, Lucy remained grounded through the support of her mother, who carefully managed her exposure to public attention. Her family prioritized stability over rapid fame, ensuring that she did not lose her sense of normal life too quickly. This protective environment helped her navigate an unusual transition from schoolgirl to public figure. Yet even with this support, Lucy began to feel the emotional weight of being perceived as a prodigy. She later reflected that the hardest part was not performing, but meeting expectations she never set for herself. This tension between public perception and personal reality became one of the defining emotional challenges of her early journey, choosing silence and searching for identity. As opportunities increased, Lucy made a surprising decision. She stepped back from most public appearances. While many expected her to immediately pursue commercial success, she chose instead to focus on personal development and musical understanding. This decision led some observers to assume she had withdrawn from music entirely, but in reality, she was rebuilding her relationship with it in a quieter, more intentional way. During this period, Lucy spent much of her time practicing, studying vocal technique, and exploring songwriting privately. She began writing reflections in journals, expressing thoughts about pressure, identity, and self-worth. Music became less about external validation and more about internal clarity. This shift was crucial in helping her understand what kind of artist she wanted to become, independent of television fame or public expectation. Her family played a central role in maintaining emotional balance during this time. Her sister became a close creative companion, and together they sang privately at home, away from cameras and criticism. These moments helped Lucy reconnect with the simple joy of music, free from judgment. Although the public saw her absence as disappearance, it was in fact a period of quiet reconstruction that would shape the foundation of everything she would later create. The return through recording and early albums. Lucy's return to music did not come with dramatic announcements, but through carefully crafted recordings that reflected her evolving artistic identity. Working with a small independent label, she began releasing music that emphasized emotional authenticity rather than commercial appeal. Her early albums showcased a restrained, classical-influenced style that highlighted clarity and control over vocal excess. Instead of chasing trends, she focused on interpreting songs with sincerity and precision. Her debut projects introduced audiences to a more mature version of her voice, one that had developed depth without losing its original purity. Songs were chosen not for popularity but for emotional resonance, allowing her to explore themes of longing, reflection, and resilience. Critics noted that her interpretations felt personal rather than performative, as though she was telling stories rather than simply singing them. During this period, she also developed a deeper understanding of music production. She spent time learning how recordings were shaped in the studio, how harmonies were built, and how subtle adjustments could change emotional impact. This curiosity transformed her from a performer into an evolving artist who understood her craft on multiple levels. It was a phase defined not by fame, but by disciplined growth. Strain, growth, and artistic maturity. As Lucy continued recording and performing, the demands of constant practice and perfection began to affect her voice physically. Her dedication, while admirable, sometimes pushed her beyond healthy limits. She later acknowledged that she often worked longer than necessary, driven by the desire to meet both her own expectations and those she imagined others had for her. This period introduced her to the delicate balance between artistic ambition and self-care. Despite these challenges, her her music continued to evolve. Her later recordings reflected increasing emotional maturity, with interpretations that carried deeper introspection. Listeners began to notice subtle changes in tone and delivery, describing her voice as more grounded and reflective. Rather than diminishing her artistry, these changes added new dimensions to her expression. This phase of her journey marked a shift from youthful talent to developing professional identity. Lucy was no longer simply a gifted singer discovered on television. She was becoming a disciplined artist, learning to navigate both her strengths and limitations. The experience of vocal strain ultimately became part of her growth, teaching her the importance of sustainability in a long-term career, collaboration, recognition, and reinvention. In the years that followed, Lucy's music reached wider audiences through recordings, online platforms, and collaborations, particularly with her sister, whose harmonies complemented her voice beautifully. Their joint performances gained significant attention for their emotional clarity and natural connection. These collaborations highlighted not only vocal compatibility, but also a shared artistic sensitivity rooted in their upbringing. Her continued releases demonstrated increasing confidence and artistic control. Albums released during this period showed her expanding range, both technically and emotionally. She explored more complex arrangements and deeper interpretive choices, earning recognition from listeners who appreciated her consistency and sincerity. Online, her audience grew steadily, not through viral trends, but through sustained appreciation of her work. Despite this growing recognition, Lucy remained intentionally private. She avoided excessive media exposure and focused on maintaining a sense of normal life. This balance between visibility and privacy became a defining feature of her career, allowing her to grow without losing personal grounding. Her success during this period was measured not by spectacle, but by stability and artistic integrity. A new stage and a broader purpose. Lucy eventually expanded her artistic journey beyond recordings into live theatrical performance, marking a significant new chapter in her career. Performing on a major stage for the first time introduced a different kind of challenge, combining acting, live singing, and emotional storytelling in real time. The transition tested her confidence but also revealed her ability to adapt and grow under pressure. Her performances in live productions were met with strong critical reception, with reviewers noting her emotional restraint and vocal control. For Lucy, this experience represented more than professional achievement. It symbolized personal transformation. She had moved from television contestant to recording artist to live performer, each stage requiring new skills and resilience. Alongside her artistic work, she also began participating in initiatives focused on supporting young people facing emotional struggles. Her openness about pressure and self-doubt resonated with audiences who saw her not as an unreachable star, but as someone who had navigated similar challenges. Music, for her, became not only expression, but connection, extending beyond performance into impact. Conclusion: a voice that chose its own path. Lucy Thomas's journey is not defined by sudden fame or dramatic disappearance, but by a series of deliberate choices that prioritized authenticity over visibility. From her first appearance on television to her evolving career as an independent artist, she consistently chose depth over speed, growth over instant recognition, and emotional honesty over public expectation. Her story illustrates that artistic success does not always follow a linear path or require constant exposure to remain meaningful. Rather than being consumed by early fame, she used it as a starting point for self-discovery. The silence that followed her initial rise was not an absence, but a formative period that allowed her to understand her voice on her own terms. Over time, she transformed from a young contestant into a disciplined artist with a clear sense of identity and purpose. Today, her legacy is not simply about extraordinary vocal ability, but about resilience, patience, and the courage to step back when necessary. Lucy Thomas did not walk away from fame as much as she stepped toward something more sustainable, a life in music defined by intention rather than pressure.